The maximum number of crude oil cars that CSI could potentially move through the tunnel. And what is the acceptable death rate of an accident that would occur?
Well, there's obviously no acceptable death rate.
So no crude oil into the tunnel?
No. Let me finish the question, okay? I know you're anxious, but there have been single car movements of crude oil through Washington. Not unit train.
How many cars?
I'd have to look. I don't know that specific, but the number is quite low actually, because I looked at some of the numbers before I came to this meeting, and they don't show in the top commodities that we move through the district.
I don't mean to be rude, sir, but if you're the vice president of public safety and community affairs, and you don't know how many carts of crude oil is taken through the tunnel at the meeting that we're discussing safety in the tunnel, I'm sorry, I really don't mean to be rude. We expect more transparency, so we have exactly what we're doing.
And we certainly can provide that information to the appropriate officials and the mayor's staff.
Why don't you get it? That trench will be 50 feet from our house.
Hi.
Because that much money they get.
Providing the information to the appropriate officials. So I'm a reporter with a local news organization called Things Progress, and I've reported on this project before. And when I try and get that kind of information on what can be transported and what is transported, I'm always told that it's a secret and that I can't get that information. And we've talked about this at the last place too. One of my questions is whether the crude that comes through here is from the Bakken shale in North Dakota. As you may know, recent reports have suggested that North Dakota Bakken shale crude is more flammable than other types of crude. I know that what's coming through is generally a secret, but is there any leeway we can get on that?
So a couple points. Typically what we see moved on CSX is from the Bakken fields. We share the same concern. Keep in mind, and I'm sure you know this because you've done your research, is that it's the responsibility of the people that bring the crude oil up to basically classify under DOT regulations if it's a flammable liquid or some other product. So we share the same concern about the volatility that people think exists with the Bakken crude. We know that the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration is doing testing of the crude, and it's going to be entirely up to them. If they feel that that product needs to be classified as a more severe hazardous materials, then they will do that. And that's how those cars would be transported.
Right, but as of now, would you tell us if that kind of oil is on your trains now? And what about the other chemicals that people are concerned about transporting through?
So let's talk a little bit about transparency. And I understand from previous meetings that that's a big concern. I will say this, that, and we've said it at other town halls in other cities, is that for security reasons, we typically don't discuss in public the types of hazardous materials that we move through the district. I told you that we move hazardous materials and have done so for many years. We understand the importance of transparency, and I'm happy that we've started discussions, and we're going to have discussions later on this month actually with the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, provide them a system that actually will give them complete transparency to all the trains that move through Washington, D.C. So they'll be able to see any train approaching the district. They'll be able to go in and see every commodity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every commodity that's in that train. And then whether or not it's a security or some kind of emergency concern, they can share that information locally with the fire department, with the emergency medical folks, because the district will have basically complete access to every train and every car inside of every train that moves through the district.
When do you expect that to?
I think that, that we're going into negotiations. We'll talk to the mayor's staff, and they've been very, very receptive. And I say this because I've worked with the fire department and the emergency management folks in the district, and they're very, very professional, and they'll do the right thing with the information.
Sir, under all three alternatives, trains will be running through an open trench next to construction, which increases the risk of an accident or a derailment you're talking about. That's the biggest concern that we have. We know that hazardous materials have been going through here for decades, but doing this project makes it more risky and more dangerous.
Well, again, we work very hard to be very safe, and we understand that let me finish. We understand that accident happens, and I'm sure that as we prepare to continue to do the work in the district, we're going to do everything to ensure that we meet the mayor's expectations, and we try to meet the expectations of the community, but we operate every train as safely as we possibly can.